Hi guys, welcome back to Fit Life SD TV, where we are bringing you the science of nutrition and fitness. And today we're telling you to stop stretching before you exercise, and we're going to tell you what to do, so stay tuned. Okay, so to not stretch, that sounds a little controversial, but there's actually a little bit more to it than that. It's not that we don't want you to stretch, it's that we don't want you to stretch the wrong way. And unfortunately, the wrong way is the one stretch that everybody thinks of. It's the same stretching that we used to do in the 80s when we went to PE class or whatever we were doing back in those days. Okay, so it's old knowledge, and that's the static stretch. The static stretch is when you simply hold your limb out to the point where it's starting to have a lot of tension and you hold it there for 30 to 60 seconds. That's what's called a static stretch. And those are actually bad before you work out, because there's a lot of studies that show athletes that do a static hold on a muscle, they actually lose some of their ability for their muscle to explode, to do a lot of movements for up to an hour, okay? So you're actually gonna be limiting your performance is the one thing when you do a static stretch. Why does this happen? When you hold your muscle in a stretch position, you're actually tiring it out, so you're pre-exhausting it, pre-fatiguing it to hold in that direction. The second thing that's gonna happen is our muscle does lose its ability to kind of like recoil. So if you have a spring and you pull on the spring, you get to a point where it's not gonna return back to its normal shape. It's kind of gonna sit there, and then for our muscles, they are gonna get back to normal, but like I said, up to an hour, they kind of stay in a stretched position. So some people will say, well, that's good. I want it to be, longer so that I can have more range of motion. Well, think about a bungee cord. You jump off of a cliff with a bungee cord, and there's no give to it. It's at the end of its stretch. So you come to the bottom of it, what's gonna happen to that bungee cord? Something's gonna snap. If the bungee cord has a lot of recoil in it, it has the ability, as it gets to the bottom, to keep stretching and stretching, absorb impact till it starts to recoil and come back. That's what we want. If we lose that, that's gonna be an injury, and we're gonna lose our ability to really explode during the movement. So static stretching, you do not wanna do before you exercise. So now that we know that we shouldn't be doing static stretches or static holds, we're gonna talk about the kind of stretching and warm up we should be doing. And Kier's gonna be here to demonstrate. What I like to do is some light dynamic stretching. So again, back in the day, they told us if we're reaching down to our toes, not to bounce because you can hurt yourself. Well, if you're gonna be bouncing really hard to the point where you're gonna rip something, yes. But really that's what we should be doing, something more in that form. So dynamic stretching is stretching through motion instead of a hold. And the reason why is because you want to take your muscle fibers throughout as much of a complete range of motion that you're going to be putting under load. That way when you go under load, if something is stuck, something is sticking, it's going to be more malleable to not rip. So what I like to do with my clients when we train, what I do for myself, first we're going to do some kind of mobility work and some dynamic work to get the blood flowing to the tissues, to give us some temporary flexibility for the workout. So the first thing I like to do is, if we're doing an upper body day, I like to take a regular band like this. You're gonna hold it in front. He's gonna demonstrate, and we're just gonna say somewhere between 10 to 20. He's gonna go over the head, come all the way back around. He's gonna touch his butt with it, and he's gonna control it all the way back around the other way. What this is gonna do is gonna give us a nice dynamic motion for the shoulder joint. Shoulder's the most vulnerable joint in our body, and so we wanna make sure the entire range of motion has blood going through it. That way each fiber is lubricated, each fiber is ready to fire, and we can keep him injury free. So the next thing we're gonna do for an upper body day, so like say we're doing push, we're gonna do some bench press type workouts. We're gonna wanna get a good stretch on the pec, but again, we're not gonna do a static stretch, which would mean you're gonna hold on to something and really hold it there. What we're gonna do is, Kier's gonna demonstrate, he's gonna come over here, he's gonna put his hand on the rail, and he's gonna slowly simulate as if he's doing a static stretch, but he's gonna go as far as he can till he feels the stretch, then he's gonna slowly come back. Then he's gonna kind of slightly go into it again. And each time you want to listen to your body, you wanna try to push a little bit further. As you get a little bit more fluid into the tissue, you should be able to go get a little further with each rep. But again, we're not gonna hold it. And so what that's gonna do is gonna be slowly working the muscle so it's flexible and malleable, so that again, when he's bench pressing, he has the ability to recoil, but he also has more temporary flexibility for the movement. Okay, so we've given you a few pointers on what to do on an upper body day, but what do we do on the lower body day? It's gonna be the same principles. Your hamstrings tend to be tight. People with tight hamstrings tend to hurt their back a lot more often. So what Q's gonna demonstrate to us is a standard hamstring stretch like we all usually do. It's gonna look like a static stretch, but again, we're not gonna be holding it. We're just gonna be slowly pushing into a range of motion. Each rep, you're gonna go a little bit further. Try to regain a little bit of temporary flexibility. So if you're gonna be doing something that's really gonna call on your hamstrings to fire, like some kind of an explosive deadlift, then you can also do just like a normal kick in the air, and each time you're gonna try to go a little bit higher, exactly listening to your body, making sure that you don't rip something. Again, if you do this right, it'll be perfect, but just like everything else, if you do it wrong, there can be an injury. So he's gonna demonstrate us how to fire up those hamstrings. Just a regular basic kick. The next one, he's gonna feel it, try to go a little bit further. So each time, he's gonna try to kick a little bit higher, as long as it feels natural. He's gonna get a lot of blood flowing into those hamstrings, and he's gonna gain a lot more temporary flexibility again for the movement. All right, so hopefully you learned a little bit. There's many stretches and there's many ways to do dynamic stretches, so it'd be hard in a compressed video to really put everything you can do. But to make it easy, any static stretch that we've been doing since we were a kid, any PE teacher, any fitness instructor that's taught us to do any kind of a static stretch, 90% of the time, if you turn it into a light dynamic stretch the way we taught you, slowly going through the range of motion, listening to your body, coming back, you could turn just about any static stretch into a good dynamic stretch. And that's gonna be proper before a workout. Now, with that, we also wanna make sure that we warm up by acclimating to the weight we're gonna be using. So after you do your mobility warm-ups, you do your static stretching. The last part of it is if you're bench pressing, you're gonna start with the bar, of course, and you're gonna put a little bit of more weight. Don't burn yourself out. That way, you keep the fluid in those muscles that are gonna do the heavy load. Next time, we're gonna cover proper static stretching. Yes, it does have its place, just not before the workout, but we're gonna show you exactly what to do so that you can keep yourself flexible, you can maintain mobility in times that revolve around the workout, but not before it. So if you have any questions, make sure you send us a message in the comment section. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe.